it's just it's so freaking nerdy, and I am super nerdy, but that's not real nerdiness, that's just stupid. Hey, I'm Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and welcome to the Positions book tag. Ariana Grande recently came out with a new album called Positions, and I was inspired to make a book tag based on all of the different songs in the album. First of all, hello. Can we just appreciate, okay? I have pulled it together. You are welcome, YouTube. This is the most put together I have looked for many months. The first song in Ariana Grande's new album, which is great, is Shut Up.
So maybe you should shut up.
Name a book that you could not shut up about. And for me, the book was City of Brass by S.A. Chakrabarty. I read this last month, and I love it. I will never shut up. City of Brass owns my ass. It is so good. City of Brass? Oh my god. City of Brass basically follows this young woman named Nari. She has been basically like running tricks and stuff on the street to kind of like trick people, grab their money. It's fine. One day while she's doing some of these sort of trickeries, she ends up summoning this very powerful warrior named Dara. And Dara tells her that she actually is part Nahid, which are these ancient healers that basically died out a very long time ago, but she belongs in this magical city called Daevabad, which is full of magical creatures that are very similar to Dara, and they are awaiting her, so it is up to him to deliver her to this City of Brass. Some people are very happy she's there, but there is a lot of brewing tension within the city, so it is a wonderful adult fantasy. I very much enjoyed it, and I will not stop talking about it, but for now, I will shut up so that way we can get to the next prompt, which is 3435. This prompt is to name a book that you stayed up all night to finish. You are here somewhere. I know you are. Hello. The book that I stayed up all night to finish a couple years ago was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Red Rising follows this young guy named Darrow. He is one of many people who are now trying to terraform Mars for colonization in the future. So he spends a lot of his time along with his colony digging through these very dangerous pits and trying to terraform the planet so that way eventually everything will be great for the new society of people who will eventually travel to Mars, and it will be wonderful. However, one day he finds out a terrible, terrible secret. He finds his whole life is a lie, and so he decides to go undercover because he is a red. And a red is basically the lowest caste, and at the very top are golds. And golds tend to compete with all of their children to try to get mentorships under these very famous, very powerful people. And so he decides to infiltrate the gold system and try to disguise himself and get in with those upper echelon type people so that way he can actually change their entire system and overthrow what they're doing and basically bring about a revolution. And I would say if you are a big fan of the Hunger Games and those sort of gaming systems where a lot of kids have to come and compete and there's a lot of thinking around your enemy, this is a great book. It is so good. I could not stop reading this book until it was over. The next prompt is motive.
Baby, tell me what's your motive?
The third prompt is to name a book that left you questioning everything. And for me, I'm going to have to go with Cixin Liu's Three Body Problem, because what? Okay, that was a fantastic book. This is definitely one of those things where you're just like, my brain definitely left me being like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I must read the next book. What a great book. What a great book. You are following this guy who basically got recruited to investigate this whole thing that's going on where a bunch of physicists have begun committing suicide, and they leave behind these cryptic notes saying that physics doesn't work anymore. And then at the same time, there is this very enigmatic kind of game that people are able to play, and they enter the space and it seems like you're part of civilization and civilization builds up, but sometimes catastrophes happens and it wipes out civilization, so you need to start over. but if you reach a certain technological point, then you're able to start over and accelerate your civilization's speed and perhaps get further and further. And there's a lot of really cool sci-fi elements. I'm doing the thing with my hands because oh my god. It is the epitome of that brain exploding meme. That is how I felt reading this book. Because a lot of the things with physics not making sense was my brain was exploding. It made sense the way it was explained. I really appreciate that, and it was really cool. The fourth prompt is to go along with Just Like Magic.
Just like magic, just like magic. Middle finger to my thumb and then I snap it.
Name a book that had all of your favorite tropes, or a whole bunch of your favorite tropes. And for me, I'm going to go with The Poppy War. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang is a booktube sensation at the moment, and for good reason. It is really good, and honestly, it reads like an anime for a long time, which is great because it's a very thick book, but you can get through it very quickly if you're just so into it the way that I was. I really love the trope that follows a young person who kind of came from nothing and they work their way up in society. A young girl named Rin works her way into this school against all odds, but that's just the beginning of it, because from that point on she needs to use political strategy and try to figure out how to succeed in this school, because if she doesn't, she'll be kicked out, which is another favorite trope of mine. I always love it when the school might kick you out for a very silly reason, like losing a competition. I love that a lot. She might be not a good person. I don't know if that's a trope, but following the villain or following a morally gray, morally dark person, I like that a lot too. And it is very dark. It is an adult fantasy, but I very much liked that book. It had a lot of great tropes. The next prompt is Off the Table.
Will I ever love somebody like the way I did you? Never thought you'd be so damn hard to replace.
And this is to name a book that raised your standards, so it kind of made you think oh my god, will I ever read a book that is this good again? And I'm going to go with The 7 or 8 Deaths of Stella Fortuna. This is a book that follows this young woman in Italy who makes her way to America with her family, but this follows her over the course of her entire life and the many terrible things that happen to her, which are each framed as a death of her and who she was as a person. And this was a historical fiction, but it felt so real and it was so unbelievably good that I just really couldn't believe that this just came out of someone's imagination, because I just kept looking up who was this woman? I need to know her real story. Was there a documentary about her? And it wasn't real. It was fiction. I was so amazed because it really read like a fantastic kind of nonfiction book, and I just wanted to learn everything about her. The next prompt is 6:30.
You know you be on some bullshit. Act so possessive and crazy. But I know it's just cause you love me and you ain't scared to
And
show
this
me your
is to
ugly.
name a book that is problematic, but you love it anyway. And I'm gonna go with Red River. This is a manga that follows this young woman named Yuri, and she gets magically transported to the past. She ends up in the kingdom of Anatolia. Anatolia existed around the time that King Tut was in power, so that was 1300 BC. So she gets stuck back in this time, and she is trying to kind of find her way home, but there are all of these political plots. Again, I really like political plots, but there are all these really weird things that are going on, and she ends up getting intertwined with the prince and the many other people who are a part of his family, including the evil queen, who keeps trying to basically steal Yuri's blood for a ritual that will bring her immense power so that she can get her son to be the next king in line. The part that's problematic is that there are a lot of men that just keep trying to kidnap her and get down with her, which they should not do. The prince is not the most gentlemanly. I would say he does a lot of things that you would say that's problematic, but it's the kind of trashy goodness that you just eat it up and you're yes, I love it. I am down for it. Are you down? What's up? The next prompt is Safety Net.
Is it real this time or is it in my head?
This is to name a book that you knew was a 5-star read right away? I am going to go with To Be Taught If Fortunate. I haven't even finished this book yet, and it is a 5-star read. It is so good. It has exactly the kind of writing style that I like. It has all of these great sci-fi elements that I love so much. I love every single character that we have met so far, even though they are all vastly different from each other. I love the kind of stakes that are in this book. It is just really good. I really love it. I would be really honestly shocked if this is not a 5-star book. But because I haven't technically finished that book yet, I will also say A Study in Charlotte was also immediately a 5-star read because the premise of it, to have the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson meet each other in a school setting and then they have to solve murders together? Are you kidding me? Of course it was a 5-star read immediately. I love this shit. This was so good. Next prompt is My Hair.
Don't you be scared. Come on, your hair, come on, hair.
And this prompt is to name a well-known author whose work you are interested in, but you haven't touched. For this prompt, I am going to name Brandon Sanderson. I have some of his books. I have here Skyward, Mistborn, and Well of Ascension, but I haven't actually read any of his books yet. I am planning to read Mistborn this month, even though I know that they are probably the exact kind of stuff that I would love, the exact science fiction fantasy that is a hard fiction, hard fantasy system, but I just haven't actually gotten around to it. I'm a bit intimidated. Usually these are like thousands of pages, his best work, so I am intimidated. But I am definitely interested, and I definitely want to get my hands on all of his books at some point. The next prompt is Nasty.
Don't wanna wait on it tonight, I wanna get nasty. What you waiting for? What you waiting for? What you waiting for? Don't wanna wait on it tonight, I wanna
A
get
new
nasty.
release that you can't wait to read. And so this book very recently came out, and this is First Sister. I don't know that much about this book, but I have seen so many people give it very high ratings. I think this is about 3 different people, one of which is like an idol, a god for some people who is still alive. There's also a soldier from the slums of Venus who sacrificed everything to escape, only to be forsaken and forgotten by the military he served. There's also Hero, who is a highly trained assassin who's been told their entire life to conform to other people's standards and expectations at the expense of their own happiness. There is this battle that reaches ahead, and each of these people must declare what and whom they're willing to sacrifice to be heard. This is a high-flying space opera, and I've heard this is the kind of thing that you just can't put down, so I'm very excited to actually get to this very soon. The next prompt is West Side.
I'm gonna make you want more. I'm gonna be a new favorite. Tell them you're closing the door. I am the only for sure.
And this is to name your favorite series. And is anybody surprised that my favorite series is a series of unfortunate events? This is a wonderful series for middle grade readers, but honestly, isn't a middle grade reader basically anybody that can read? I absolutely love these books. I talk about them all the time. They follow these 3 orphans named Violet, Klaus, and Sunny Baudelaire, who unfortunately lost their parents in a terrible fire that consumed their entire home, and they were forced to go live with this terrible man named Count Olaf, who eventually basically proved he was not fit to be guardian, but as they get passed from guardian to guardian in various different books, he tends to follow them around and try to murder them because he wants their massive, massive fortune. So unfortunately, these children are very young and do not have access to any of this money, so actually they only can really rely on the skills that they each have. Violet is an inventor, Klaus is a very well-read person, and Sunny is very good at biting things, and together they actually prove to be a very wonderful team. It's a fantastic writing style written by Lemony Snicket, who is actually a character in these books who is chronicling all of their adventures and all these terrible events that happen to these kids. Right around here, we start getting some really deep secrets about the entire background of what happened with these parents, with a lot of the other different people that they have met throughout this series, and maybe what's really going on with all of them. So I love this series. It is really wonderful, and you can't be surprised. This is my favorite series. The next prompt is Love Language.
If you gon' keep speaking my love language, you could talk shit all night. You the medication when I'm feeling anxious. That's the kind of shit I like.
Pick a comfort read that you keep coming back to. So I keep coming back to my favorite book ever, which is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is a wonderful sci-fi story, and I I feel like it was absolutely perfect. It is told in a series of interviews by this very mysterious stranger who is my favorite, and it follows all of these different characters who come from very different backgrounds. There is a pilot, there is a linguist, there is a scientist, and each of them has something to bring to this team, led by this woman named Rose Franklin, who as a very young girl fell into a large hole and ended up in a very large mechanical hand. So it is a very mysterious kind of series in which you're trying to figure out, where did these parts come from? Are there more of them? And if they are discovering more of them, does that mean that there is something bigger out there? How did they get here? There was a woman president, that is really cool, and just generally I love all of the characters. I would say the first book is my favorite. You don't have to read the rest of the series. I think the first year that I discovered Sleeping Giants, I must have reread the book 7 times. It is a fantastic audiobook, by the way. I do not own the physical book because I actually much prefer it as an audiobook because it has a full cast and every single narrator and actor does their role so well that I could not possibly imagine anybody else acting for any of these characters. Next up is the titular song, Positions.
Switching up positions for you. Cooking in the kitchen and I'm in the bedroom. I don't need a lift, they say I'm pumping through holes. I'm a love infinite, nothing I wouldn't do, but I won't do. Switching for you.
For this, I am challenging you to name a book that subverted a cliche. Basically any kind of book that you may have thought this is going to follow a particular trope and it sort of just went the other way. The first book that I want to talk about for this is Girls of Paper and Fire. This I thought was going to kind of follow a Beauty and the Beast retelling kind of story because there is this terrible beastly prince who calls all of these girls to be his concubines, and then there is the main girl who is like the exception girl. But instead of this being some kind of thing where she falls for him and he's like, oh man, I shouldn't be so terrible, maybe you've melted my heart, instead she decides, you know what, I hate this guy. She ends up being in a relationship with another one of the paper girls. I would say that's not really a spoiler because this is known as being a sapphic book, and I think had I not known that it was sapphic, I definitely would have been more surprised. And the second book that I want to talk about for this particular prompt is My Next Life as a Villainess. This follows a girl who gets reincarnated as the villain in a dating sim, and usually if you play a dating sim, you play as a girl who is trying to woo the different guys down a different path, and the villain would be another woman who is trying to stop you from winning the affections of any of these men. This girl realizes that she has been reincarnated in a whole world as this bad guy, but she doesn't want to be that bad person because she realizes that all of the ends for this villainess end up with her getting exiled or murdered. So she's like, I would really prefer if neither of those things happened to me. How could I fix this? And I think that a lot of people would think that this means that she is going to try to sabotage the game, but instead she actually just ends up becoming friends with a lot of the people who had very rough pasts in the story. So she actually kind of creates her own new path and she becomes a wonderful person that a lot of people actually love to be around. And I really think it's a wonderful kind of a story that ends up with taking something that you think would have been very sinister and terrible and just turning it around and making it very wholesome and wonderful. The next prompt is for Obvious.
Others that I've had to impress me before, but I know you were the real thing when you walked through the door. I didn't think that I would have to spell
Name a book
it
from a
out.
genre that you don't normally read, but you loved anyway. And for this, I'm going to go with Skeleton Crew by Stephen King. This is a collection of horror stories, and I usually do not read horror at all. I do usually like books that are very thrillery or that feature murder mysteries, but I don't really read horror very often. And I read this a little bit ago because I figured if it was short stories, it would not scare me as much. And I was very pleasantly surprised because I had so much fun with so many of the different stories. So many of them have actually stuck with me even to this day, even though I read this probably at least a year and a half ago. So I really, really liked this book. I think it was just very surprising to me that I, first of all, didn't shit myself, and second of all, that I actually had a lot of fun with it and that they were really memorable. So I definitely am interested in picking up more horror collections, maybe even full-length horror stories. I'm actually very open to it thanks to this book. The last prompt is POV.
Oh, for all of my pretty and all of my ugly too. I love to see me from your point of view.
Any did is to name a book that you would have loved to see from a different character's point of view. If you know me, it is no secret that I really, really, really don't like the book Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I think it's disgusting because for the most part, it is racist, it is misogynistic, and it's stupid because, first of all, I know I wasn't born in the 80s, but you know what? I don't care because a lot of the references in that book are really just somebody Googling when did this movie come out and having the main character say like, do you even know when this movie came out? It was in 1982. Get owned. And that's like, all of the interactions is just to prove that he knew what year something came out, who wrote the thing, exactly what it's so freaking nerdy, and I am super nerdy, but that's not real nerdiness, that's just stupid. So I would have loved to see this book from a woman's perspective, especially because there is a woman in this story named Artemis who is another gamer, and she is basically only there for the main character's affections. And I would have liked to see her be her own character, and I think if we had been in her head, perhaps in a different author's hands, I think that she could have had a really cool story to tell that talked about gamer culture and how Gamergate sucks, and that she could actually win her way to this great, wonderful treasure, which is the whole point of this whole game, and it's not to get the girl. You stupid Wade Watts, I hate you. Don't like that book. I hate that book. I hate that book so much. I feel like men should not be allowed to write certain things. Like books. I'm kidding, obviously, but I really didn't like that story. I thought it was just stupid. So if we had seen it from Artemis's perspective and how she had to deal with a lot of the annoying shit that gamer girls do, I think that would have been a lot more interesting. It would have given a lot more depth, and we probably could have gotten away from all of that other misogynistic garbage that was in this book. So that is it for the Ariana Grande Positions book tag. I am so excited about this tag. There were so many people who were interested in doing this tag, so I am actually just going to leave everybody in the description down below who I am tagging based on what everyone said on Instagram and Twitter. Speaking of, if you are interested in connecting with me on Instagram and Twitter, all of my links are in the description box down below, as well as my Amazon wishlist, and you can also like and subscribe if you liked this video, because I have lots of new content. I always have a new video coming every single week. I hope that you had fun. I hope that you do this tag, and if you see this video and you want to do this tag, you can consider yourself tagged by me. Thank you so much for watching. I am Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and I will see you next time. And everything will be great as that was my laptop. I don't know, it was great, it was great, it was great. I recommend it. Keep my conscience clear, that's why I'm